"We just want to thank your muse," he said, "who gave you the space to create this, completely on your own." The gallery lights were unforgiving, and the flash of a journalist's camera bleached the smug satisfaction on Zyler's face into a permanent image in my mind. The sound of polite applause felt like static. I took a slow sip of my complimentary champagne. "Congratulations, Zyler. You earned it." We met in a windowless classroom during a night course on typography. Our final project was to brand a fictional coffee company, and while everyone else was designing soulless logos with coffee beans in them, we stayed up until 3 a.m. creating Noctua Brew, a brand for night owls, complete with a minimalist owl logo and packaging that glowed in the dark. That night, hunched over my laptop in the greasy glow of a pizza box, felt like the beginning of everything. I remember thinking he saw the world in the same weird, beautiful way I did. First red flag was 2 weeks later, during our final presentation. He stood at the front of the room and presented our shared work as if the key ideas had sprung fully formed from his head. I told myself it was fine. He was just better with crowds, more confident. I was the engine. He was the driver. We needed both. Our collaboration was a blur of success for the next 3 years. We moved from my cramped apartment to a shared desk at a trendy co-working space called The Hive. Landed a freelance contract with Spotify, then a bigger one with Peloton. Our signature became my intricate code and design logic, paired with his slick, undeniable salesmanship. I remember one rainy Tuesday in October, we landed the Vextech account, our biggest client yet. We celebrated with burgers from a place on MacDougall Street, the kind of meal that costs too much but feels deserved. He talked about our future, our agency, the empire we were going to build. I believed him, but the cracks were already there. It started with him forgetting to CC me on final client approvals. Then he'd present my mock-ups in meetings as some rough ideas I whipped up. I was pulling all-nighters, fueled by lukewarm coffee and the blinking cursor on my screen, while he was building relationships over 3-hour lunches. He was the one getting quoted in design blogs. I was the one getting bug reports at 2 a.m. I rationalized it, of course. We each had our roles. He was the rainmaker. I was the one who made the rain. Discovery wasn't a dramatic confrontation. It was a typo. An email sent at 11:47 p.m. landed in my inbox. The subject line, Aura Project Solo Founder Vesting. It was meant for his lawyer, a man named Zachary. My name wasn't mentioned once in the attached LLC formation documents. Aura was our masterpiece, a generative art platform I had personally coded for 18 months. It was supposed to be the foundation of our shared agency. But according to this document, it was his and his alone. The world tilted. For a full minute, all I could hear was the hum of my own computer. That night, I didn't sleep. I began digging. For 6 weeks, I lived a double life. By day, I was his collaborative partner, nodding along in meetings. By night, I became a forensic accountant of our own shared history. I went through years of Google Drive version histories, recovering my original file creation dates. I found text messages from him. "That color palette is genius, dude. All you." I compiled a spreadsheet of every line of code I had written, cross-referenced with my timestamp project files. The scale of the betrayal widened with every click. He hadn't just stolen our biggest project. He had systematically erased me from our entire professional history. The breaking point came at the launch party. Zyler had rented a pristine white gallery in Chelsea to unveil Aura to the world. He'd invited investors, tech journalists, and all of our mutual friends. He stood on a small stage, a single spotlight illuminating him. He looked like a visionary. And then he delivered the line that sealed his fate. "Some people are just meant to be catalysts," he said, his voice ringing with false humility. "They spark the idea, but it takes a true visionary to build the fire. I'm grateful for the spark, but this vision, this work, this is all mine." The crowd erupted in applause. My friends, our friends, cheered for him. In that moment of crushing humiliation, as I stood invisible in the back of the room, I felt a strange calm settle over me. The plan began to form. My eyes drifted to the giant screen behind him, where the elegant code of the Aura interface was scrolling, and I saw it, a tiny, overlooked detail. He had used my exact idiosyncratic file naming convention, Project Aura V73 Final Master, an old joke between us. Digital fingerprint he was too arrogant and too lazy to ever wipe away. The next morning, I called Veronica Shaw, a notoriously sharp intellectual property lawyer whose retainer cost me $15,000, nearly all of my savings. For the next 3 months, we worked in secret. Veronica was a whirlwind of precision and quiet fury. We met in sterile coffee shops far from our usual neighborhood. One afternoon, Zyler walked into the very cafe where we were meeting. I had to duck behind a pillar, my heart pounding, while Veronica calmly ordered an espresso and stared him down until he left, oblivious. Our case was built on a mountain of digital evidence. We had 412 timestamp file versions from my personal Dropbox. We had emails from 2019 where I pitched the core concept of Aura to Zyler. We had sworn affidavits from 2 former clients who confirmed I was the sole creator of the work they'd paid for. But our killer piece of evidence was an ironic coincidence. I found a screen recording I.D. made a year earlier for a tutorial, where I was walking a junior designer through the Aura backend. On the recording, clear as day, were hundreds of my developer comments embedded in the code. My favorite was a note I'd left for myself. Zyler will probably call this navy blue, but it's clearly ultramarine. Don't let him touch the CSS. It was the ultimate proof of authorship, hidden in plain sight. Veronica's strategy was brilliant. We set a trap. She sent Zyler a lowball settlement offer, a nuisance fee of $25,000 to avoid litigation. It was designed to look weak. He laughed it off in an email which Veronica saved. His arrogance was now admissible. He was walking willingly toward the edge of a cliff, convinced he could fly. The execution was set for the Vextech acquisition meeting. Zyler was selling Aura My Aura for reported $1.2 million. He was sitting at the head of a long glass table in a boardroom on the 47th floor, a pen in his hand, ready to sign. The city skyline gleamed behind him. Veronica and I walked in unannounced. "Before you sign that," I said, my voice perfectly steady, "I believe you have some documents to review." Zyler's bravado was a physical force. He smirked. "I don't know what you think you're doing, but security can show you out." Then he saw Veronica Shaw. His confidence didn't just vanish, it was surgically removed. His face went white. Veronica placed a thick binder on the table with a soft thud. She began, her voice calm and lethal, laying out the first wave of evidence. The file histories, the client affidavits, the email from him rejecting our settlement offer in bad faith. The Vextech executives exchanged nervous glances. Zyler was shrinking in his chair. Then came the killer proof. I plugged my laptop into the boardroom's massive 8K display. I played the screen recording. The room was silent as my voice filled the space, explaining my own code. I paused the video on the developer comment. "Zyler will probably call this navy blue." I looked directly at him. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "You can't do this to me," he finally whispered, his voice cracking. "This was my dream." I picked up my laptop. "No, it was our dream. You just tried to edit me out." The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. The Vextech deal evaporated before we even left the building. Within 24 hours, the story, a carefully worded version leaked by Veronica's office, was a minor item on a tech industry blog, framed as a messy founder dispute. My phone buzzed with texts from our so-called friends, all offering confused apologies. I ignored every one of them. To avoid a public, brutal fraud lawsuit, Zyler was forced into a binding settlement. He signed over 100% of the intellectual property for Aura and was ordered to pay me $120,000 in damages, plus Veronica's considerable legal fees. His entire life was liquidated to pay a debt he thought he'd never owe. 6 months later, I saw him through the window of a bus. He was working at a small, faceless marketing agency in a dreary office park on the outskirts of the city. He was hunched over a laptop, his shoulders slumped, just another cog in a machine he once dreamed of owning. My own renewal was quieter. I relaunched the platform under my own name. It found slow, steady success. I moved into a minimalist loft in a converted factory, a space filled with light and clean lines. The peace was the most valuable thing I owned. Last week, a design magazine interviewed me for a feature story. The journalist asked what my biggest inspiration was. I smiled. I had a catalyst, I told her. He sparked the idea, but it takes a true creator to build the fire. I'm grateful for the spark. The project was finally completely mine.